Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am so glad you decided to click on this video and I hope you are having an amazing day. So if you watched my last video, that was the one where I cleaned out all of my unread books and went through and made 3 piles, which were yes, keeping, maybe, I want to kind of see how it goes, and I can probably just get rid of it. So today I'm going to do my first of my maybe pile, where I try a chapter, if it's a short chapter, maybe 2, and kind of see how I feel about it. So I've picked 5 books out of that collection, and I'm going to read the first chapter of each of them and kind of report back in real time how I feel about it, and if I think it's a book that I would like to finish reading, or if I think it can kind of go to someone else. So I've picked out 5 of them. I'm gonna start with Wellness by Nathan Hill. I've had this book for quite some time. It does seem like it's up my alley just as far as the plot. This is about a couple who meet in the 90s and they just kind of are kindred spirits, but 20 years later they're married and they are kind of like learning how to deal with the challenges of parenting and the indignities of aging. And I just think that this will be interesting. I really like kind of character studies over a long spread of time. So it seems like this is going to be a real examination of their relationship. So I am going to go ahead and start the first chapter, and I will be back once I'm done. Okay, so I just finished the first chapter of Wellness. It was pretty short. This is a super long book. Well, I mean, it's pretty long, but also the font is pretty small. So let's see. This book is 597 pages, so that would kind of be long for anyone. But so I just only read to like page 8 was the first chapter, and I loved it. I think that that could be like a short story in itself, and I feel like I said that about a book last time I did a video like this, but it really was like so beautiful, and it could really be really powerful as a short story. But I'm glad we're getting more. So it's talking about this man, unnamed whatever, who lives in Chicago, and he, across the alley of his building into the next one, his window looks directly into this woman's window. And he is like fantasizing about her, but like not in a gross like sexual way, but in a like what kind of person she is and the things she likes to do, and just observes her and is enamored. And she's very beautiful, and he like sees her getting ready for a date and all this stuff. And sometimes when she isn't in the window, he is like sad. And so then we kind of flip the script and we hear that she feels basically the same about him. She loves watching to see, because he's like a photographer or something like that, and he's like looking at negatives, and she's like, oh, he's an artist, he's just the type of person I moved to Chicago to look for. And the last little bit of it was so great. I really, really loved the last couple lines. It's the last paragraph, actually. So here they are, lingering in the shadows. Outside, the snow falls plump and quiet. Inside, they are alone in their separate little studios in their crumbling old buildings. Both of their lights are off. They both watch for the other's return. They sit near their windows and wait. They stare across the alley into dark apartments, and they don't know it, but they're staring at each other. So I just thought that was so good. This is an absolute book I'm going to finish, and the only thing, like I said, it's really long, and it's also like very heavy. So I think that I might have this on an audiobook that I got like a long time ago when it came out from like Libro. So hopefully I can do that. Right now my listening time is being occupied by the Tortured Poets department, so once I am kind of like the hype has settled and I'm listening to music in a normal pace and not an obsessive psychotic pace, I will listen to the audiobook for this because I really liked what I read so far. On to the next book. We have The Love of My Life by Rosie Walsh. I got this from Book of the Month ages ago, and like this has already been out in paperback for like 2 years. So it was an add-on, so I can't see exactly what date it came out. Let's look at the publication. Okay, it was published in 2022, so I guess it hasn't been out that long, but I've had it since like the beginning, like when it was available. So it's kind of long. So I think this is about a woman who like her and her husband like have secrets from each other, but they don't think they do. I don't know. So I'm going to read the first chapter and find out. Okay, so I will say that while I don't know that I'm like dying to read this, I am intrigued. So what we got so far, there was like an opening like prologue that I don't really know if we needed. Maybe it's going to come into play later, but it's basically just this woman, Emma. I assume it's Emma, actually. I suppose we don't actually know that, I think. Well, we don't actually know for sure that it's Emma, the main character and wife, in this story, but I'm just gonna say it is. I don't know. She's a marine biologist, and it's just them like walking on the beach and like seeing some crabs, and she gets dizzy because she has low blood pressure. So that's the prologue. And then the first chapter was from Leo's point of view, who is her husband, and it just kind of describes like an everyday morning in their lives. They have a little girl named Ruby, and they have a dog, and it just kind of describes like how they get started. We know that they have been married for 7 years and they've been together for 10, and that she's really smart and like I said, a marine biologist. He writes obituaries for the paper, and definitely seems like he has an inferiority complex a little bit, but the last line of the chapter kind of intrigued me. So this was one I was kind of ready to say to, like just kind of put down, but I did like this bit. The last sentence. So when I learned in the days following this morning, this innocent commonplace morning with dogs and frogs and coffee and dead priests, that was one of the obituaries, that I know nothing of this woman, it will break me. So I'm like kind of interested because I want to know like, what do you mean by that? So I think that I'm going to keep this one. I didn't think I was going to be quite honest, but I am intrigued. So, you know, this might be something that I need to read like 3 or 4 chapters of before I find out how I feel for real, but like I'm willing to definitely give it a go, keep going with that. Okay, so the next book I'm going to try is Greta and Walden by Rebecca K. Riley. This is one that I think I mentioned in that video that I like had no recollection of like requesting from a publisher. I know I did get it from a publisher. This is Avid Reader Press, who are like one of the partners I like to work with the most because they always have amazing books. So I am certainly intrigued by this. I love the cover. I don't really know why like this bag of limes is so like appealing to me, but it is. So I think this is about 2 siblings who are both queer, and they're just like adventures as siblings. So that's not really helpful in describing this so far, but I am gonna go ahead, read chapter 1, and wow, this is already a little overwhelming because on the very first page is like a family tree of sorts, so this could get complicated, but at least there's a reference if we need it. Real quick, I will never get over how British people spell the word curb, because I read this in like an arc somehow at some point where it was spelled Kerb, and I was like, what? This is absolutely, like, this isn't correct spelling. How did this even happen? Like, how would you even misspell that word? And I was like, maybe it means something different in British English. And so I looked it up, and like, they just, that's how it's spelled. And I was shook. And I just read it again, and it's still shaking me. So, anyways, back to reading. Okay, so where to begin? About halfway through this chapter, I was ready to DNF the chapter, and then of course, as I kept reading, I was like, it's 9 pages, Laura, just finish it. And now I'm like, did I like that? I think that the beginning is just, how do I phrase this? This seems to be very wordy and very like stream of consciousness, like kind of thinking, I suppose, and kind of writing, which I don't dislike. I guess I just didn't really know what I was getting into, and I mean, I'll tell you what happens in the first chapter, but I don't really feel like it's crucial to the plot. So basically, this man gets home, and there is like a missed delivery slip on his door, and he has OCD. So he's like, I have to go get this now, because like the way the world works, like he's very much like, if I don't do this, then something bad happens, it's going to be my fault, that kind of thing. So that's an interesting viewpoint. I feel like OCD is often written in literature in one particular way, and this is like, it's, I don't know, I just think it's a really cool representation, and like very good representation, because it just, OCD does not appear the same in everyone, and I feel like in books it tends to fall one way as opposed to any of the others. So he goes and gets this package, and he's like all wondering, who would send me a package? I just don't know who would send me a package. We get some, like, him talking about an ex of his. He's like, well, I hope he didn't send me anything. What if it's a letter? I mean, what if it's a book that I left at his house, and there's going to be like a little note or whatever? And then he gets it, and it's actually a book that someone sent him that was meant for his dad, who has the same name as him. So yeah, that's kind of how it ended, which I thought was kind of like a clever way of ending it, and also I think kind of like lends what we're going to see in the rest of the book. So I'm gonna keep it, but I do feel like this is one that I could potentially DNF later, but based on the first chapter, I'm still willing to give it a shot. Like, if I sat down to like read this whole book, I would definitely keep going, but based on the first chapter, I was kind of like iffy, so I still reserve the right to DNF it later. Sorry about that. The camera is in a different spot now because I needed to make space on my memory card, so I had to like move it around. But anyways, we are back. And the next book I'm going to try a chapter of is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I've never read a book by her, and you know, a lot of people really, really love her stuff. As you can see and probably already know, it won the Book of the Year from Book of the Month, and I got it for free because of that. Like, otherwise I really don't think I would have gotten this, but hey, we're gonna go for it and see what I think. And I think this is like also related to another one of her books, maybe 2 of her books, that are all like set in the same world. So hopefully I'm not like missing anything, or it's not spoiling anything, although probably doesn't really matter. This is a romance about a woman who just got divorced. Her brother needs a kidney, and she's looking for a promotion, and it's probably going to go to someone else, and so it looks like things are not going great for her. Then they, like, her and the doctor have like a hate to love thing, or her and the other doctor that's like going to maybe get the promotion she wants, come up with some sort of like, oh my gosh, pen pal something? So, I don't know. We're going to see what happens. It does have a content, like, little warning talking about that a few themes of the book: a main character who was cheated on, a flashback to a pregnancy issue, a mention of suicide, and a character who has clinical anxiety. So, like, I always appreciate how authors have started doing this, and I like it when they're specific because just saying, like, hey, there's stuff you might find sensitive, you might not want to read this if you're sensitive to any topics, because then you, like, have to go and, like, look it up. And I know I've mentioned this website, doesthedogdie.com, but, like, it's so amazing for finding any triggers in books or things that you might be sensitive to that you want to avoid. So I do really like it when it's just black and white. The author just kind of lays it out there first just to really help people decide if this is a book for them or not. But that was just a side note. All right, here we go. I just knocked a notebook off the table. It's fine. Okay, I don't necessarily dislike what I read, but I just don't think that it's anything special and anything that I'm gonna like gravitate towards or be interested in picking up. I'm kind of picky when it comes to romances, and so something's really got to wow me, and I just kind of like didn't feel that. I also don't love like a dual perspective romance book. I like if I'm reading from the woman's perspective or just one of the characters in a couple, like I want to just know their whole thing. I don't need back and forth. I just like a little mystery in that way, I guess. So I don't think I'm going to continue this. If you think that I should, then please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think and why I should keep reading this or hold on to it. But I just don't think that I'm going to ever pick this up, and it's nothing bad about the book. I just think that it's going to, for me, be average as a non-romance reader. I think it's just going to end up being like an okay book for me, so I'm going to put that in the no pile. And the last one is one I'm very curious about. It's called Mrs. Gulliver by Valerie Martin. So I've seen some reviews that are kind of like all over the place with this one, and you know, I was kind of getting to be less excited about it because some bookstagrammers that I really value their opinions and I tend to agree with did not like this very much. So I'm going in with an open mind, but I'm skeptical. This is about, it's in 1954 on like a tropical paradise island where prostitution is legal, and Lila Gulliver is proud of her high-end establishment, and I don't really know exactly how it goes from there, but I do think it's going to end up being pretty feminist, and yeah, we'll see what we get, and yeah, let's go. Let's read the first chapter. Okay, so this, first of all, is a little funny because it doesn't actually really have chapters. It just has, like, page breaks, but that's fine. I read, oh, there you go, you can see. I read 12 pages, which was where the first page break was, and I liked it so far. So this woman and a colleague run, like, a brothel, basically, and it's on this island, and these two girls come to the brothel and are looking for work. One of them says, oh, I'm going to go work at this oyster place, like shucking oysters, but my sister can't do that because she's blind from birth, so she is not able to do that kind of work. Can she get a job here? Apparently, she's stunningly beautiful, and they are like just kind of desperate and found the place from their uncle, who recommended they go and check it out. So that all happened. Mrs. Gulliver, who is the narrator, brought her colleague in to say, like, what do you think? And now where it stopped was he was like, I'm going to take her for a trial run. Well, actually, Mrs. Gulliver said, you should take her for a trial run to see how it goes, because this is like a pretty high class brothel where their clients, pay a lot and have a certain expectation, so they want to make sure she's like able to do what they want her to do. So yeah, that was kind of all we got in the first 12 pages, but I do think I am interested enough that I would like to keep reading. So overall, we got 5 books. One of them is the one I'm going to put down. A couple others I do want to read a little more. I feel like the only one that I really, really spoke to me is Wellness. So I am pretty happy that I got that. I am definitely going to try to read it relatively soon, although I say that about a lot of books, so who really knows. But I really liked the chapter that I read. I feel like that's going to be right up my alley, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. So let me know if you've read any of these, if you think that I will enjoy the rest of them, and let me know what you're excited about reading for the rest of April. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you would, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!